Warning, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Derek Ruby Show. I am your host, the previously mentioned Mr. Ruby, and now it's the end of our Halloween month, and what better way to end it than to talk about the 1978 classic, John Carpenter's Halloween. So right out the gate, the movie starts off with one of the most iconic themes in not just horror movies, but all movies. Then we get an early result of POV camera work as we see the Myers house. We see that first-person perspective looking through the windows, going to the kitchen, getting the knife out of the drawer. Then we go up the stairs and we see a woman there, and we get the first kill in the movie. Then as the parents pull up to the house, they see their child, and they pull his mask off of him, and he has a stunned look on his face sitting there with a butcher knife covered in blood. So we flash forward to 1978, and we see Dr. Loomis with the nurse heading to the mental asylum to pick up Michael Myers for court. But as they get there, they notice some of the inmates are out of their cells, and Loomis tells her to pull over, and he goes to check things out. And then all of a sudden somebody jumps on top of the car. Now, I don't know if she actually saw him jump on the car, but she's sitting in the rain at a mental asylum, and she hears a big thud, so what does she do? She rolls the window down and then takes a look, and then a hand comes in the window and starts choking her. She's able to get away and go to the other side of the car, and then his hand comes crashing down against the window and it cracks it. She flees the car, he jumps in, and he drives off. Loomis knows exactly who it is because it's the patient that he was just talking about.
He's gone from here. The evil is gone.
So then we meet Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, and she's talking to a young boy named Tommy that she's going to babysit later that evening. So Laurie walks with Tommy as she takes the keys back to the old Myers house. Tommy tells her that it's haunted, and she doesn't think any big deal about it, and she goes up to the door and leaves the keys right there, as we see Michael for the first time. And as she's talking with Tommy, Michael, of course, comes out in the street. He's nonchalantly wearing his mask. And then we see Tommy at his school, and a bunch of bullies mess with him and tell him that the boogeyman's going to get him. And right afterwards, the boogeyman almost gets one of them. And he follows the boy in the car. And we cut back to Dr. Loomis, and he finds a truck on the side of the road, and he knows that Michael has been there. We see the dead body of the trucker in the bushes. So we see Laurie meet up with her friends as they're making plans for the evening. Michael's car passes by, and one of the girls screams something out at him. Then he turns the corner, and a few minutes later, and Laurie sees him just standing out in the middle of the sidewalk looking at her. Then he goes behind the bushes. She tells her friend. She walks over there. She takes a look, and of course nobody's there, but we do get to see a little bit of John Carpenter's cigarette smoke go right across the screen. And if you've never noticed this before, from now on, every time you see this movie, you're going to notice it. In the meantime, Dr. Loomis meets up with the sheriff, and he lets him know what's going on. They go and stake out the old Myers house, and they don't really find anything but a dead dog. And then, of course, we get a little bit of a jump scare in the movie.
He could have seen inside.
They make a plan, and Loomis is going to wait there for Myers while the sheriff goes around and monitors things that are going on in the town. So Laurie has a phone conversation with Annie, and they're talking about their plans for later in the evening. As the dog at the house that Annie is babysitting is constantly bothering her. Well, a few minutes later, we see Michael looking at her, and the dog shows up, and he does what a dog's supposed to do, and he barks at Michael. And of course, Annie, being annoyed by the dog, just ignores it. And then our first real kill of Michael as an adult is him grabbing the dog and choking it out. So Annie goes to the laundry room that's like way the fuck away from the main house for some reason, and she actually locks herself in there and gets stuck. Once that's over with, she talks to her boyfriend Paul on the phone and decides to go pick him up. So she takes the little girl next door to go stay with Tommy and get Laurie to watch her, and she comes back to the house, goes into the garage and goes to the car and finds out that it's locked. So she goes back to the house to get the keys, and when she comes back, she gets in the car, and she realizes it looks foggy. And then we get our first real kill of the movie, as Michael reaches over the seat and starts choking her. Now, my only complaint about this is just look at the face that the girl makes. I mean, it's not so much a death face as it looks more like a fuck face, you know what I'm saying? And then the little boy looks out the window and he sees Michael Myers carrying Annie's body into the house across the street. And he tells Laurie, and of course she doesn't believe him. A few minutes later, we see a bunch of kids sitting in front of the Myers house, and they're all skeptical as to whether or not they should go in. And of course, Dr. Loomis scares them off, and he has the most weird, creepiest, satisfied look on his face. But I guess if you've been chasing a monster like Michael, the little things in life that make you happy are just few and far in between. Linda and her boyfriend Bob pull up to the house, and he takes her out of the car, doesn't even shut the van door, walks right in, and they kind of ask if anybody's there, and then they get right in the couch and start making out. And then we get a little bit of voyeurism as Michael stands there and watches them. So they make their way upstairs so they can fuck, and once they get done, Bob goes downstairs to get a beer for him and Linda, and he thinks Annie's boyfriend Paul might be there and might be fucking with him, so he tells him to come out of the closet. And we probably get our best kill for the entire movie. I mean, Michael just picks that guy up off the ground and he just stabs him right through with the butcher knife. And the best part is just the way that he stands there and just stares at him, kind of admiring his work. A few minutes later, Michael comes upstairs with a sheet on his head and Bob's glasses. So Linda, of course, thinks it's Bob just trying to be funny, and she says this.
See anything you like?
And of course, Michael doesn't respond. She gets up, she decides to call Laurie, and while she's on the phone with Laurie, Michael chokes her out. So at this point, Laurie feels like there's something wrong. She sees all the lights across the street go out, and she tries to make phone calls. Nothing happens. And she does the smart thing that everybody in a horror movie does. Not call the police, not call some people over to help investigate it. She decides to go over there and check it out herself. And once she goes in the house, she goes upstairs and sees a dead body on the bed with Judith Myers' tombstone over her. And then we get another jump scare from the closet and another jump scare. And then this is one of the creepiest parts of the movie because when you see Michael come out from behind her, you could definitely see why they call him the Shape. He's just blended into the shadows with that William Shatner mask he's got on. And then he stabs her right in the arm. And she falls down the stairs, and she's able to get away from him, but it takes her a little while. For some reason in this damn movie, all the doors are jammed and you can't open them up the right way. But she finally gets out, she comes running out of the house, and she's screaming, and runs over to her neighbor's house. Knocks on the door, the lights come on, they clearly see her. She's yelling for help, but they're like, fuck it. I'm not going to help her, so they turn the lights off. She runs back over to her house, and Michael comes out of the house and just briskly walks over there. You know, just takes his time. It doesn't have nothing else better to do, I guess. You gotta savor the moment when you kill somebody. And she frantically screams and gets Tommy to open the door, and she locks the door and tries to make a phone call, but the line's dead. Now, she sits down by the couch after she notices the window's open. Michael comes to the other window and tries to stab her, but she picked up this big-ass needle and she stabs him right in the neck. And he drops quick, and then she just sits there on the couch after she picks up the butcher knife for a minute. She goes upstairs and informs the children. Tommy, of course, asks about the boogeyman, and she informs him that she killed the boogeyman. And Tommy says,
"You can't kill the boogeyman."
And he's fucking right, because the boogeyman's coming right for him. And they make a break for it. Laurie does the thing that a lot of people do in these movies. She goes in the closet and tries to barricade herself in there. And it doesn't take long before Michael can get through that closet. And now, I would like to take a minute to point out that every woman who's ever told me that they don't like wire hangers and that they prefer plastic ones, just look at what Laurie does. She pulls that wire hanger down, she hits him in the eye with it, and she's able to take the butcher knife from him. And then she gives him one good stab and he drops. So she gets out and tells the kids and has them go down the street so they can go and call the police. And she just sits there, and like the Undertaker, Michael Myers sits right up. In the meantime, Loomis sees the kids run out of the house, so he goes in, and Michael, of course, follows Laurie to the hallway, and he starts choking her. And for a minute, Michael's mask comes off, and we get to see his face just for a split second. He puts it back on, and Loomis shoots him. He doesn't just shoot him once, he empties a whole clip into him. Michael goes and falls out the window, and the day looks like it's saved. Or so we think. Loomis comes to the window, and of course Michael's gone. And he just has that look on his face like he knew it. Loomis looks over and Laurie's crying, and then our movie comes to an end. And that's Halloween in a nutshell. So how does Halloween hold up? It's an excellent movie. I can't stress enough that this is the godfather of slasher movies. It was very innovative and kicked the whole slasher genre off, as well as made the horror genre very popular going into the 80s. Now, I know a lot of the true hardcore slasher fans are going to say, well, what about Black Christmas? Halloween either borrowed or stole a lot of things from Black Christmas. And I don't want to debate that. I know Black Christmas was 1974. I know there are a lot of similarities, but the fact of the matter is, Halloween was the one that was successful. It was very well known. It showed all the movie studios that you could have a movie made for a low budget of $600,000 and you can make millions. In fact, it held the record for the most successful indie film for a very long time. Without this movie, you wouldn't have had Friday the 13th. Maybe Nightmare on Elm Street wouldn't have got picked up. It's 2016 and they're making slasher movies even today. Matter of fact, next October we're going to get a Friday the 13th and a new John Carpenter Halloween. The acting is overall really good. Donald Pleasance is great. Jamie Lee Curtis is great. I mean, yeah, you got the one girl that makes the fuck face, but okay, not everything's going to be perfect. And the thing of it is, you don't see Michael Myers up close for most of the movie. You usually see him from far away or from behind. And then when you do see him, the way his face illuminates, it just does send a chill up your spine. The music score is perfect. The theme is one of the most memorable of all time. John Carpenter has a style that can't be matched by most people. So I'm going to go ahead and give Halloween 5 stars. So thank you guys for listening to the Derek Ruby Show. I'm glad you guys could join me this year for our Halloween month. It's sad that it's over, but don't worry, I'll still do a few horror movies here and there. Please leave likes and comments. Do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Check out the Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All the links are in the description below. And I would just like to take this time to tell everybody to have a safe and happy Halloween. Hopefully you guys will enjoy the season by watching some of the classics that we've gone over. Perhaps you'll watch a couple of these videos again. So with that said, happy Halloween, everybody. It's more like a fuck face, you know what I'm saying?